He said it so casually, like he was commenting on the weather. It was a Tuesday morning, the kind that smells like warm milk and old coffee, and my husband stood in the doorway while I tried to fasten a pair of jeans that hadn't fit since before my second pregnancy. He leaned against the frame with his arms crossed, eyes flicking over me in a way that made my skin feel exposed. "You've gained weight," he said. Not cruelly, not kindly, just factual, like an observation he'd been holding onto for a while. The zipper refused to close. I laughed softly, the kind of laugh you use to protect yourself. "I had a baby," I said, breathless. "6 months ago." He shrugged. "I know. I'm just saying. You used to take better care of yourself." That was the moment something small and important inside me shifted. Not shattered. Not exploded. Just moved quietly out of place. I didn't say anything after that. I stood there with the jeans bunched at my thighs, the baby crying down the hall, and the sound of the shower still dripping in the bathroom. He walked away before I could find the words. I remember staring at my reflection in the mirror, dark circles under my eyes, my stomach softer, my shoulders slumped, and thinking, is this what he sees when he looks at me? That was the beginning. Not the end. The beginning. Before all of that, before the comments, before the comparisons, before I learned how heavy silence could feel, my life had been ordinary in the most honest way. I had married my husband, Daniel, when I was 27. He was steady, predictable, the kind of man who folded his socks the same way every time. We met at a friend's barbecue, bonded over burnt hot dogs and bad music, and built a life that felt solid. We had our first child 3 years into the marriage. A boy with Daniel's eyes and my stubborn chin. When I got pregnant again, I was 34, tired but happy. The pregnancy was harder, more nausea, more back pain, but I told myself it was normal. I told myself I was strong. Our home was always loud after the second baby arrived. Toys on the floor. Bottles drying on the counter. The hum of the washing machine running late into the night. I worked part-time from home, juggling emails during naps, while Daniel went to the office and, later, the gym. He started going more often then. At first, I was grateful. It gave him energy, he said. Helped him manage stress. I didn't notice when his compliments stopped. Not right away. Life was busy. I was busy. I measured time in feedings and diaper changes and school drop-offs. I forgot what it felt like to look in the mirror and recognize myself. The comments came in pieces. That dress doesn't really flatter you anymore. Are you sure you want seconds? My coworker's wife just had a baby. She's already back in her old jeans. Each one was small enough to brush off. Together, they formed a pattern I couldn't unsee. Sometimes he'd say it with a smile, like he was teasing. Other times, with concern, as if my body were a problem we needed to solve together. "I just want you healthy," he'd say, scrolling on his phone while I ate dinner alone. For the kids. At night, when the house finally went quiet, I'd lie awake listening to the clock tick and my own breathing slow. I'd press my palm against my stomach and feel the softness there, the place where my body had stretched to make room for another life. I tried to love it. I tried to remind myself of what my body had done. But his words lingered, settling into me like a low ache. The first time he compared me to someone at his gym, it felt like a slap I hadn't seen coming. We were in the kitchen, the smell of reheated pasta filling the air. He mentioned a woman who trained at the same time he did. "She's a mom too," he said, like it was supposed to help. "She really stays on top of things." I stared at the microwave as it beeped, my reflection warped in the glass. "Good for her," I said, evenly. He didn't hear the warning in my voice. Or maybe he did and chose to ignore it. That night, I cried quietly into a towel so the kids wouldn't hear. I wasn't crying because I felt ugly. I was crying because I felt unseen. Reduced. Like all the parts of me that mattered, my patience, my work, the way I held our family together, had been replaced by a number on a scale. Still, I stayed. I told myself it was a phase. Stress. That he didn't mean harm. I adjusted my meals, skipped dessert, took longer walks with the stroller. Not because he asked me to, but because I wanted to feel like I had some control again. And something surprising happened. I started to feel stronger. It wasn't dramatic at first. Just small changes. I woke up earlier to stretch before the kids got up. I drank more water. I found a secondhand treadmill online and squeezed it into the garage. I listened to music that made me feel awake again. Alive. Daniel noticed the changes, but not in the way I expected. He started making comments about how serious I was getting. He joked about my new routine. Sometimes he seemed irritated, like my effort annoyed him. I didn't understand it then. I understand it now. As the weeks passed, the weight began to come off. Slowly. Steadily. But what changed faster was something deeper. I started saying no more often. I took on extra freelance work and realized how much I'd missed using my mind for something other than logistics. I made a friend at the park who talked to me like I was more than just someone's wife. Daniel, meanwhile, grew distant. Guarded. He spent longer hours at the gym. Took his phone into the bathroom. Smiled at texts he didn't explain. I told myself I was imagining things. That insecurity had made me paranoid. That all marriages had rough seasons. But late one evening, after the kids were asleep and the house smelled faintly of lavender cleaner, I sat alone at the kitchen table and felt a calm certainty settle over me. Something wasn't right. And this time, I wasn't going to ignore it. I didn't confront him right away. That's not how I work. I sit with things. I let them settle. I watch. The first thing I noticed was the silence, how it changed shape. Daniel used to come home and talk about his day, complain about traffic, ask what was for dinner. Now he moved through the house like a guest. Shoes off quietly. Phone face down on the counter. He showered the moment he got home from the gym, steam filling the bathroom while I fed the baby in the living room. One night, as he towel-dried his hair, he said, "You've been losing weight." It wasn't a compliment. It was an assessment. "Yeah," I said. "I feel better." He nodded, distracted, already reaching for his phone. "Just don't get obsessed with it." I watched him walk away and thought, funny how he worried about my body when it was changing in a way he didn't like, and worried again when it changed in a way he did. The comments didn't stop. They just shifted. Now they came wrapped in advice. "You should try heavier weights. You know, women lose fat faster with intermittent fasting." He sent me articles I didn't ask for. He spoke to me like I was a project he'd already lost interest in finishing. What he didn't know was that I had started noticing my own patterns too. How my shoulders felt less tense in the mornings. How my clothes fit differently. How my reflection no longer startled me. The scale showed progress, 10 pounds, then 15, but it wasn't the number that mattered. It was the quiet confidence growing where doubt used to live. I kept going. By the time I hit 20 pounds lost, something else had changed. People noticed. Not in loud ways, just small ones. A barista remembered my name. A woman at the park asked where I bought my jacket. My sister told me my eyes looked brighter. Daniel noticed too, but his attention felt sharp, uncomfortable. He asked who I was texting. He teased me about showing off. He made jokes about me finding myself that landed like warnings. One evening, after the kids were asleep, I found him sitting on the edge of the bed, scrolling. His face lit by the screen. I caught a glimpse of a woman's photo before he locked the phone. "Who's that?" I asked casually. He didn't look up. Just someone from the gym. Something in his tone made my stomach tighten, not fear exactly. Recognition. I didn't push. I went to the bathroom, closed the door, and stared at myself in the mirror. I saw a woman who had carried 2 children, who had been tired and overlooked, who was learning slowly, not to disappear. That night, I slept lightly. Around 2 in the morning, I heard his phone buzz. Once, then again. He rolled away from me to answer it, his body forming a barrier between me and the screen. I lay there, eyes open in the dark, listening to my heartbeat. Each thud felt like a question I didn't want answered. In the days that followed, I paid closer attention. I noticed how he angled his phone. How he smiled at messages and frowned when I entered the room. How he showered longer, dressed sharper, used a cologne he hadn't touched in years. I also noticed how often he criticized me when I was doing well. If I wore something fitted, he'd say it looked a bit much. If I talked about work, he'd remind me not to overdo it. When I mentioned hitting a new fitness milestone, he'd say, "Just remember, looks aren't everything." It was almost funny how predictable it became. The first real crack came on a Saturday morning. He left early for the gym, earlier than usual, kissed the kids on the head, and said he'd be back in an hour. 2 hours passed. Then 3. When he finally returned, his hair was still damp, his shirt freshly changed. I caught the faint scent of perfume, sweet, unfamiliar, when he brushed past me. "Busy day?" I asked. He shrugged. "Ran into people. You know how it is." I nodded. "Sure." That afternoon, while the kids napped, I opened his gym bag to look for a missing sock. My hands moved without drama, without shaking. I wasn't searching for proof yet. I think part of me still hoped there wasn't any. What I found was a receipt from a cafe across town. A cafe we'd never been to together. 2 coffees. 2 pastries. Dated that morning. I sat on the floor of the laundry room and stared at the paper. The hum of the dryer filled the space, steady and loud. My chest felt strangely calm, like the moment before a storm finally breaks. I folded the receipt and put it back. That night, as we ate dinner in silence, I watched him chew. Watched his hands. The way he avoided my eyes. And I understood something then that took me years to learn. His cruelty hadn't started with my body. It had started with his guilt. The realization didn't hurt the way I expected it to. It clarified things. His comments. His comparisons. His irritation at my progress. He wasn't disgusted by me. He was threatened. Every pound I lost, every ounce of confidence I gained, brought me closer to seeing him clearly. And I was almost there. Over the next few weeks, I kept my routine steady. I didn't accuse. I didn't beg. I focused on myself, on my health, my work, my children. I saved money quietly. I talked to a lawyer just to understand my options. I gathered documents and tucked them into a folder at the back of my closet. Daniel, meanwhile, grew careless. He forgot to delete messages. He left his phone unlocked on the counter once, just long enough for a name to flash across the screen. Melissa. I didn't read the messages then. I didn't need to. I already knew the shape of the truth. By the time I reached 30 pounds lost, I felt lighter in ways that had nothing to do with weight. I walked taller. I spoke more directly. I stopped apologizing for taking up space. Daniel noticed. He asked if everything was okay between us. I smiled. "I'm great," I said. And I meant it. Because I was close now. Close to 40 pounds. Close to the truth. Close to the moment when I would stop shrinking myself to fit a marriage that no longer deserved me. The truth has a sound when it finally arrives. For me, it sounded like a phone vibrating on a kitchen counter at 6:30 in the morning, the house still half asleep, the baby's soft breathing drifting through the monitor. Daniel was in the shower. Steam curled under the bathroom door. The phone buzzed once. Then again. I didn't rush. I poured coffee, the bitter smell grounding me, and watched the screen light up with a name I had learned to recognize without ever really knowing. Melissa. A message preview slid into view. "Last night was amazing. When can we do it again?" There it was. No metaphors. No careful wording. Just the truth, blunt and careless. I stood there with my mug warming my hands, my pulse steady, and felt a strange, quiet relief. Not because it didn't hurt, but because I was done wondering if I was imagining things. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't insecure. I wasn't too sensitive. I picked up the phone. The shower turned off. I heard the water cut, the curtain slide, the muffled sound of him humming, some song he'd been playing on repeat lately. I scrolled. Not fast. Not desperate. I took my time. The messages went back months. Complaints about work. About me. About the kids. Photos sent back and forth, nothing explicit, but intimate enough to leave no doubt. Gym selfies. Inside jokes. Plans that overlapped with family dinners and school pickups and nights. He said he was too tired. There it was in black and white, the reason he'd grown colder, sharper, smaller toward me as I grew stronger. He had needed me diminished to justify what he was doing. If I was letting myself go, then his betrayal could feel like a response instead of a choice. The bathroom door opened. Daniel stepped out, towel around his waist, hair damp. He stopped short when he saw me holding his phone. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The clock ticked. The coffee maker clicked off. "Give me that," he said finally, reaching for it. I held it out of his reach. "Who is Melissa?" He exhaled hard, rubbing his face. "It's not what you think." I laughed then, not loud, not bitter. Just a small sound that surprised us both. "That's funny," I said. "Because it's exactly what I think." He started talking. Fast. Too fast. About stress. About feeling disconnected. About how I'd changed after the baby. How he didn't feel wanted. How the gym was the only place he felt like himself again. I let him talk. I'd heard these arguments before, dressed up in different clothes. I waited until he ran out of breath. "When did you start cheating on me?" I asked. He flinched at the word. "It wasn't." "When," I repeated. He looked down. "Around the time you started. Focusing on yourself." There it was. The final confirmation. He'd seen my glow up not as a partnership to celebrate, but as a threat to his control. I nodded slowly. "So while I was rebuilding myself, you were tearing us apart." He reached for me then, hand outstretched, eyes suddenly wet. "I made a mistake." "No," I said gently, stepping back. "You made a series of choices." The kids woke up soon after. Life doesn't pause for revelations. I packed lunches. I tied shoes. I kissed foreheads. Daniel hovered, quiet now, watching me like I was something he no longer recognized. That afternoon, while the baby napped and the older one was at school, I went for a walk. The air was crisp. My body felt strong beneath me, legs moving easily, breath steady. I thought about all the times I'd stood in this same neighborhood pushing a stroller, feeling invisible. I wasn't invisible anymore. When I got home, I opened the closet and pulled out the folder I'd been building. Bank statements, copies of texts, notes from my lawyer. I laid them out on the dining table like a map. Daniel came in and froze. "What's this?" he asked. "My exit," I said. He stared at me, truly startled now. "You're overreacting." I met his eyes. "I'm responding appropriately." The days that followed were heavy but purposeful. I told my sister, my closest friend. Each conversation felt like exhaling after holding my breath too long. The shame I thought I'd feel never arrived. His choices were his to carry. Daniel tried everything: apologies, anger, promises. He criticized my obsession with weight loss one last time, as if it were still the problem. I didn't engage. By the time I reached 40 pounds lost, the number felt almost symbolic. Like a countdown to freedom. I stood in our bedroom the night before my final weigh-in, packing a small suitcase. I caught my reflection in the mirror, leaner, yes, but more than that, steadier. A woman who knew her worth. Daniel watched from the doorway. "Is this really happening?" he asked. "Yes," I said. He shook his head. "After everything?" I zipped the bag. "After everything," I agreed. The next morning, I stepped on the scale. 40 pounds gone. I smiled, not because of how I looked, but because of what I had shed along the way. Doubt. Silence. The need to be chosen by someone who couldn't see me. I set the divorce papers on the kitchen table before I left. He found them when he came home from the gym, alone this time. I didn't wait to see his reaction. I drove away with the windows down, the radio low, the future wide open. The public doesn't always hear the truth first. Sometimes it arrives in fragments, whispers at birthday parties, pauses in conversation, the way people tilt their heads when they ask how you're doing. I learned that quickly in the weeks after I moved out. I rented a small 2-bedroom apartment across town. It smelled faintly of fresh paint and lemon cleaner, and the windows faced east. In the mornings, light spilled across the kitchen floor like a promise. I set up the kids' rooms first, beds, familiar blankets, the nightlight shaped like a moon. I wanted them to feel safe before I worried about myself. Daniel told his version of the story almost immediately. He said we'd grown apart, that I was changing, that I was too focused on myself. Some people nodded sympathetically. Others didn't ask questions at all. I didn't correct him. Not at first. There's a dignity in restraint. And there's also timing. The kids adjusted better than I expected. Children have a way of accepting truth when it's delivered calmly. I told them mommy and daddy were going to live in different houses. That both of us loved them. That none of it was their fault. At night, when they slept, I let myself cry quietly, fully, until the tears ran out. Daniel tried to insert himself into my new life. He dropped by unannounced with groceries I didn't ask for. He commented on my appearance, how good I looked now, as if that should change anything. He asked if we could start over. I listened. I didn't waver. The first real consequence arrived at a school fundraiser. I hadn't planned to go, but my son wanted me there. I wore a simple dress, nothing dramatic, and stood near the back sipping water. Daniel arrived late, alone. He spotted me and stiffened. Melissa was there too. She stood near the silent auction table, laughing a little too loudly, her gym bag slung over one shoulder. She looked at me the way people do when they realize they've stepped into someone else's story. Daniel's face drained of color. I didn't approach them. I didn't need to. The truth has a gravity of its own. By the end of the evening, people were talking. Quietly at first. Then with curiosity. Someone asked me if the rumors were true. I met their eyes and answered plainly. Yes, I said. He had an affair. That was all. The next few weeks unfolded like a slow tide going out, revealing what had been hidden beneath. Daniel's gym friends stopped inviting him to group events. A mutual friend told me Melissa had transferred to a different time slot. His parents called me, confused and embarrassed, asking what had happened. I told them the truth. Daniel, faced with the reality of his choices, grew smaller. He tried to blame me publicly once, made a comment about my postpartum struggles that he thought would win sympathy. It didn't. The room went quiet. Someone changed the subject. Another person walked away. People are kinder than we expect sometimes, and sharper when they recognize injustice. The divorce process was slow but steady. We divided assets. We agreed on custody. There were moments when old habits tugged at me, when I wanted to smooth things over, make it easier for him. I resisted. This wasn't about punishment. It was about truth. One afternoon, as I was leaving the courthouse, Daniel caught up to me in the hallway. His suit hung looser now. He looked tired. I never thought you'd actually leave, he said. I stopped. That's because you never thought I would choose myself. He nodded, swallowing. I didn't realize how much you were changing. I did, I said. And you couldn't stand it. That was the last real conversation we had. In the months that followed, my life expanded in quiet ways. I took on more work and surprised myself with how capable I felt. I joined a small fitness group, not for weight loss, but for community. I laughed more. I slept better. People began to ask how I did it, how I lost the weight, how I found the strength. I never gave them a simple answer, because it wasn't simple. It was mornings when I didn't want to get up. It was choosing myself when it felt uncomfortable. It was understanding that self-love isn't loud, it's consistent. One evening, after the kids were asleep, I sat on my balcony and thought about the woman I had been a year earlier. Exhausted, doubting, shrinking to fit someone else's expectations. I felt a swell of compassion for her. She did the best she could with what she knew then. I didn't hate Daniel. Not anymore. I understood him better now, his insecurity, his need for validation, his inability to grow alongside me. Understanding doesn't mean excusing. It just means letting go of the weight that anger adds. The glow-up everyone talked about wasn't the dress size or the number on the scale. It was the way my voice stopped shaking when I spoke my truth. The way I filled my own life with things that mattered. I lost 40 pounds. And I lost a husband who couldn't love me through change. I gained something far more valuable. Healing doesn't arrive all at once. It comes in layers, like light at different times of day, each one softer than the last. The first layer was relief. Pure and simple. Relief at not being measured anymore. Relief at not bracing myself for comments disguised as concern. Relief at waking up without that low-grade dread humming under my ribs. The second layer was grief. It surprised me how quietly it showed up. Not as sobbing fits or dramatic scenes, but as moments standing in the grocery aisle realizing I only needed to shop for myself and the kids now, or hearing a song on the radio we used to play on road trips. I grieved the man I thought I'd married. The future I'd pictured. The version of myself who tried so hard to be enough. I let the grief pass through me instead of pushing it away. I learned that resisting it only made it linger. The kids settled into our new rhythm. Weekdays with me. Weekends split. They learned the drive between houses, the new rules, the small differences in routines. Children are observant. They noticed the change in me too. My laughter came easier. My patience felt deeper, not stretched thin. One night, as I tucked my son into bed, he looked up at me and said, "Mom, you seem happier." I swallowed. "I am," I said honestly. He nodded, satisfied, and turned over, already halfway to sleep. That moment stayed with me. Daniel faded into the background of my life in ways I hadn't anticipated. His texts grew shorter, more formal. Conversations revolved around logistics only. There was no drama left to sustain his narrative. Without conflict, there was nothing to hold us together. Melissa disappeared entirely. I heard she'd left the gym, changed jobs. People rarely talk about the aftermath for the other woman, the isolation, the quiet consequences. I didn't take pleasure in it. I simply acknowledged it as part of the truth. As months passed, people stopped asking about the divorce. They asked about me instead. About my work. About my plans. About the small things that make a life feel full. I set goals that had nothing to do with weight. I signed up for a course I'd been postponing for years. I took the kids on a short trip, nothing fancy, just a cabin near a lake. We cooked simple meals, skipped rocks, fell asleep to the sound of crickets. At night, after they slept, I sat on the porch and breathed in the quiet, grateful. One afternoon, while cleaning out old boxes, I found the jeans I couldn't zip that Tuesday morning, the day it all began. I held them up, surprised by how small they looked now. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt reflective. I folded them and put them back in the box. Because they weren't the point. The point was the moment I stopped believing his voice over my own. I started speaking at small gatherings, not about weight loss, but about boundaries. About postpartum bodies and the stories we tell ourselves. About how often women are asked to shrink for the comfort of others. I didn't name Daniel. I didn't need to. The stories spoke for themselves. After one talk, a woman approached me with tears in her eyes. I thought it was just me, she said. The comments. The comparisons. I took her hand. It's not, I said. And you're not wrong for feeling hurt. That, more than anything, felt like purpose. Occasionally, doubt tried to creep back in. Late at night. On tired days. The old questions whispered, was I too harsh? Could I have tried harder? I learned to meet those questions with kindness instead of judgment. Trying harder doesn't mean tolerating harm. Loving someone doesn't require abandoning yourself. The final layer of healing arrived unexpectedly on an ordinary afternoon. I was standing in line at a cafe, waiting for coffee, when I caught my reflection in the glass. I saw a woman relaxed in her own body, shoulders back, eyes clear. I smiled, not at how I looked, but at how I felt. Whole. I didn't rush into dating. I didn't need to prove anything. I let myself enjoy my own company. When I did eventually open the door to new connections, I did it slowly, deliberately, with standards rooted in respect rather than fear. Daniel reached out once more, months later. He said he was in therapy, that he finally understood what he'd done, that he wished he'd appreciated me when he had the chance. I believed him, and I let the conversation end there. Some lessons come too late to change the outcome, but not too late to change the person. As for me, I carried my own lessons forward. I learned that bodies change, seasons shift, and love that demands you stay small is not love at all. I learned that strength can be quiet, steady, built one choice at a time. I lost 40 pounds. I lost a marriage that couldn't grow with me. And in the process, I found something enduring. Myself. Sometimes I sit in the quiet after the kids fall asleep and think about how close I came to disappearing. Not in a dramatic way. Not overnight. But slowly, one comment at a time. One comparison. One moment where I almost believed that my worth was something I had to earn back after motherhood changed me. If you're listening to this and you've ever stood in front of a mirror wondering when your body became a negotiation, I see you. If someone told you they loved you, but you'd gained weight, but you weren't the same, but you should try harder, please hear this clearly. Love does not come with conditions disguised as concern. My glow-up wasn't about revenge, even though it may have looked that way from the outside. It wasn't about proving him wrong. It was about finally believing myself. Believing that the body that carried life was never the problem. Believing that effort without respect is a dead end. Believing that staying silent to keep the peace costs more than leaving ever will. I didn't win because I lost 40 pounds. I won because I stopped letting someone else decide how small I should feel. And maybe that's the quiet truth at the heart of this story. Sometimes the weight we need to lose isn't on our bodies. It's the voice that tells us we're not enough. So I want to ask you something gently, honestly. If the person who's supposed to love you only values you when you shrink, would you stay? Or would you choose yourself, even if it scared you? If this story spoke to you, if it reminded you of your own strength, or the strength you're still trying to find, share your thoughts in the comments. Your story matters more than you think. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing. There are more stories here, quiet ones, hard ones, healing ones. You're not alone.